everybody. Again, this is Sree from Biz Buzz. What matters the most in your business? As we always talk about business topics in small business environment. Biz Buzz is sponsored by My Work Belt. My Work Belt is a all-in-one software to manage service-based small businesses. Whether you are in US, Canada, anywhere in English, you can use My Work Belt. Now, today we have a guest, Jennifer Sutherland, and Jennifer is an adjunct professor at Dartmouth University, founder of Sutherland Talent Solutions, a boutique talent consulting firm, a small business, I love it. And she hosts a fully engaged episodes, and that is another reason I wanted to talk to Jennifer, of course. And she led the learning and HR team in TrustWave, supporting employees at EMEA, APAC, and North America in leadership development. And she's also well known in the market as a global leader of culture, engagement, and development. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to talk to you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I greatly appreciate giving us time. So the topic I wanted to talk to you is leadership development. So generally, when it comes to your large-scale corporations, you can do all these big talk about leadership development and trainings and coachings and all that. Whereas when you come to the small businesses, it's not a large hierarchy that you are moving from one person to the next level of leadership. And number two, doing a leadership development coaching and investment in the training from a small business perspective is not really that valuable to them. So how do you present the value to a small business owner on a leadership development?
That is a great question because yes, leadership development it can be as small or large of an investment as is capable, and there's a sort of appetite for. But for a small business, it doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming sort of training curriculum and all of this big plan. It can even just be conversations with the leaders and having an understanding of what the skill set is that you expect leaders to have and the competencies. So a lot of companies, big companies, do this, but it absolutely applies to small companies. Identifying maybe 4 to 6, I wouldn't go any more than that, sort of key pillars of what a leader looks like in your organization. How do you want them to interact with each other, with their direct reports? How do you want them to lead? And it could be things like, how do they align with each other? How do they develop their team? How do they handle difficult conversations? But a small company can do that. A small company can identify sort of the expectations of a leader. And then the conversations are all it takes. It doesn't have to be a formal training sitting in a classroom with, pre-tests and post-tests and even role playing. You don't have to do all of that if you don't have the sort of capability to do that as a small company. But having conversations with leaders, setting expectations, I expect you to have one-on-ones with your team every 3 weeks or once a month. I expect you to have a team meeting every quarter. I expect you to respond back to your peers when they have questions within 24 business hours. Those types of level setting expectations can happen no matter the size of the organization. And that doesn't require a third party coming in. That can be just somebody in HR that's like, hey, let's set this up, or it could be somebody on the leadership team already. But it gives that flexibility that a small organization can do, without a heavy financial investment.
I hear that. Thank you very much. That is generally a psychology of small business, particularly small business ownership group. Oh, we don't have that fancy trainings. That's just it's the nature of the beast. Nothing wrong, but coming an advice coming from an expert like you that it doesn't need to be a great leadership investment, leadership training or anything, but a small chunks can help the small leaders. Now, for the small business owners, those who may not have the leadership team, or those who may wanted to bring somebody into leadership team so they can catch a breath. If
Right.
a small business of a 1 to 10 employees and having a project manager in addition to the owner is very rare, and owners are wearing all kinds of hats. So,
Yeah.
what do you suggest that the ownership group or ownership should look for when they are bringing somebody else into a leadership role or a second position that they can take a break from work and catch a breath?
Right. I think the first thing that if I'd say there's two parts of that. The first is to identify, are they bringing in a second leader to supplement their work and what they do? Or is it really so that they can step aside and sort of be sort of replaced? Now, if it's meant to
Mm-hmm.
be complementary, then
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. But if it's meant to let that leader sort of step aside and somebody else lead the team, I think that's a different approach. If it's complementary, if it's a second person and they're both kind of sort of going to work together to lead the organization, then I think that leader needs to do some self-reflection and determine what are their skill set, what are they really good at, and what are their areas of opportunity. And then hire somebody who can fill in those skill gaps for them. So if they are really great with being entrepreneurial, very innovative, they come up with amazing ideas, but maybe they're not great at the implementation side of things, maybe that's what they should hire. Or maybe they're somebody who is just very data driven. They are really great at looking at the analysis part, but maybe not so great at the human relationship, partnership building side. Maybe that's what they hire. So that would be my first approach. If they need to hire somebody to complement them, to look at truly what would be those skill sets that that person can bring to the table to complement what they already have. Or alternatively, if they're looking for somebody so that they can truly sort of step aside and go travel and do some other things and maybe start another business or what have you, and have somebody else sort of like fully sort of step into their seat, then I think they need to figure out what is their 3 to 5 vision plan, their 3 to 5 year vision plan, and then identify what skill sets is needed to get the company to that next 3 to 5 years. So what leaders tend to do is hire somebody that reminds them of them when they were younger, which is really interesting. It's part of the psychology. Not necessarily
True,
where they're
isn't it?
at their career now, but where they
Yes.
were. And they're like, oh, basically their thought process is, oh man, I would have hired me when I was like that, right? I want to hire like a little younger me and get me to this point. So we have that natural sort of tendency to do that,
Uh-huh.
it's sort of unconsciously. So what a leader needs to really identify, okay, what do I need to get to the next level? Not necessarily to maintain, but how do I get this company to the next level? So they shouldn't be thinking, what was I like back then, but more of where do I need to go and how do we
I
get the
see.
company there? So I think that the approach is different depending on what they're looking for, what direction. But
Yeah.
some self-reflection definitely needs to be necessary there.
What a wonderful response. Thank you very much, Jennifer. That's actually a very interesting. You mentioned that, um, you know, uh, putting why before the action, right?
Right.
Why are you hiring this? Why are you bringing this person? What is the purpose? And then once that is demystified and once that is clarified in the mind of an ownership, that's easy for them to articulate it to the person coming in and let the person coming in choose, hey, I've been working in the company for 5 years, but what your expectations is not going to be suitable to me.
Right.
And then you're not really wasting anybody's time and effort, energy. Sometimes you lose relationship with a great employee by putting them into the wrong position, and
100%
they are
agree.
frustrated. They are frustrated, and during frustration, we all people behave differently, right?
Right. I mean, if you
No.
think about sometimes people promote people that are really good in their individual contributor role and then promote them to be a leader of people doing that same sort of job. I've seen that fail time and time again, especially my background was in sales for the first 10 years of my career. I've been a sales manager, a sales trainer, sales enablement. So I've seen it happen where really good salespeople get promoted to be a sales manager. That can be a disaster because that might not be one, what they like to do. It could be maybe they're not making as much money, which is one of the reasons sales managers don't love it because individual contributor, they make more money. But whatever made them a good salesperson person doesn't necessarily translate to being a good sales leader. But I've seen that in a various careers, like engineering leaders. Like sometimes that person isn't a great leader. So I love what you said. That person should take the time to say, is this role going to be a good fit for me? Because sometimes we try to pigeonhole people into a role that just doesn't make sense for them.
Employees, sometimes they get excited, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm getting promotion, right? But at the same time, they don't really realize what they are stepping into, what they are committed for.
Nope.
But in my understanding, the ownership, whoever the owner of the small business or manager of the small business, when they are bringing somebody else into that leadership role, they need to stop and help the other person. Hey, this is what you are committing to. I don't want you to say yes right away. Think
Right.
about it, and you can tell me yes tomorrow, after a month from now, or you can tell me no. That's okay with me. But be aware this is what you are signing up for.
Yep.
And give them some space to think about it and digest before they say, yeah, okay, this is great. I'm really happy that I'm getting promoted, right?
Right.
And most importantly, we all tend to look at what benefits am I going to get when I'm going into the new role as a leader, right? Those things do get excite us.
Right.
Um, but at the end of the day, if the job itself is going to make us miserable, benefits doesn't mean anything, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it started out right. We would talk about salary, and then we started talking about a full compensation package, which would include
Yeah, yeah,
medical benefits, 401k, stock options, things like that. But now, I'd say probably COVID really helped rapidly increase the sort of concept around this. But I think employees now recognize the idea of the overall work. I don't want to say balance because there is no such thing, right? But the work life
yeah.
experience and
Ah, there
where
you
that,
go.
right? So I think that you are like, you hit it right there is, it's more than just the money, but thinking about what is my life going to be like? Are my hours going to change? Do I have to do meetings more frequently? Like I've had jobs where I've had to be in front of the computer in meetings on camera 7, 8 hours a day, right? And that can get exhausting for somebody who's maybe more of an introvert or somebody who would prefer to sort of do their own work on their own and not be on camera. So understanding that about what we're looking for, whether it is moving to the next leadership role, the promotion, very necessary for us to have that self-reflection and understand what our ideal work relationship would be, so that we can do the right thing.
Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us today. What you have shared, greatly helpful for small business owners, particularly large corporations. They have their own business processes and all, but small businesses, they really don't have a great deal of process, and sometimes they do shoot by the hip. But your sharing your wisdom stops the small business owners to think before they bring somebody into the leadership role out of emotions, out of likability, all those things. Thank you very much for sharing us. It's greatly appreciate your time and energy in that knowledge.
It was great
Look
talking
forward
to
to
you.
talking to you more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.